Hey up everyone, Magpie Gaming here. I hope you're all doing well. In this video I'm going to do a quick breakdown of the recent podcast that we had from Battlestate Games, and this was on the 31st of January, just for some clarity there. And it was a 2-hour long podcast, quite a lot of information brought out in it, but I've basically just included what I think are the juiciest parts of it. There wasn't really a great deal more that was mentioned other than what I'm going to tell you. Some pretty decent information and some nice concept art for the next map, which will be Streets of Tarkov, and I will roll that periodically through the video as we go. So one of the first issues that they talked about was the server issues. Any regular player will know that the servers have been pretty much messed up since Christmas and the New Year Twitch drop events, which brought a slew of new players into the game. Nikita admits that weekends are the worst time at the moment. He's seen the player count obviously jumps on a weekend. He says player count is still very high during the week, so they are suffering issues in an evening during the week, but mostly the weekends are the worst. They've said that the US servers are the ones that are getting impacted the most, and they will be adding more servers there over the coming weeks. It says they're going to be looking at adding around a dozen servers to the US side of things, so they're hoping that that will calm things down as far as the server issues go. They're also going to be adding some new servers in Australia. They're going to be doubling the amount of servers that they've got there, and they say that they're monitoring the situation all the time and trying to work out where they need other servers, but there are a lot more servers coming online. He says this is also why we have shorter raid times at the moment. The raid times have been shortened on every map. This is to try and keep people rotating through and to try and alleviate some of the load that is on certain servers. So rather than having lots and lots of players stuck on one server playing a raid, it kind of sort of tries to even them out a little bit. But he says this is a temporary measure, and once things with the servers calm down, he will remove those raid caps and they will be going back to what they originally were. He also says that he understands people saying that they should look at other server services. He said they have looked at Amazon AWS servers, but he says it's just too expensive at the moment for them to warrant going over to a service like that. He said a service like that would be perfect, but it just doesn't kind of match with the pricing at the moment. He said obviously if the game keeps building and keeps going forward, then they would have to look at something like that, but right now it's just not kind of viable given the price that Amazon charge for those servers. It says the next patch will be out roughly within the next week. This is not going to contain any new content. It is purely fixes for the game, eradicating the bugs that are in the game and trying to sort some of the issues out that we have with the game. So there's no new content. This will just be a bug fix patch, and that is that. The patch that will come after that is the one that's going to contain some new content in it, some new gear, etc. It says that the new overweight feature will be in that patch. I don't really know how the new overweight feature works. I think eventually once you get to a certain weight, your character won't be able to run anymore. So I think that's kind of trying to, compensate for people getting tons and tons of loot and trying to soak up everything on the map. I think obviously in real life the more you carry, the slower you get, and this is going to be something that's going to be introduced. But as I say, I don't know exactly how it's going to work, but that will be coming in the next patch. We're going to be getting a quick heal system. Now, how this will work from what I know is that if you do die in raid, when you get your end screen, you will be able to pay a small fee to the therapist and you'll be able to instantly heal yourself. I mean, at the moment you can instantly heal, but you've got to go into your stash, you've got to select or buy meds and heal that way. This way you'll be able to do it. It won't use any of your meds up. It will simply just charge you a set price to do that. The price is going to be linked to your reputation with the therapist, so obviously the higher you rep, the lower the price you'll pay. There will also be a damage report at the end of the raid as well that you'll be able to access. Now I think this is through the therapist as well, but I'm not too sure. But it'll basically give you some basic information such as where you was last hit, what caliber of round it was that hit you, where it hit you, etc. They don't say whether it'll tell you the weapon, but I'm hoping that it will tell you the weapon that you was hit with. But it's just going to be a basic report to give you some idea as to where you was hit. Hopefully it will tell you whether it was on the front or the back of the body, etc. So again, not a massively great feature, but it's something that we've never had before, so it's a welcome one, I think. I'm going to be getting some new clothing items with that patch as well. They didn't go into details about what they will be, but there are going to be some new barter items. There's going to be some materials added in where you will be able to craft your own clothing, but we're going to get some fixed clothing put in as well. Nikita did say that maybe some new weapons would come into this patch, but he's not too sure, and he's not really really sure what weapons they would be if they do put any in, so there wasn't really much information given out about that. He said the grenade launcher is going to be added in this patch, probably. He says this isn't the underslung one though, this is going to be a standalone one. I believe it's one that you can just walk around with, which sounds even worse than an underslung grenade launcher, but I don't really have too much information on that at the moment. I don't think he really went into great detail over that. And a shoreline boss is looking like he's going to be coming in that patch as well. It's not confirmed for that patch, but they are aiming for that patch. When this patch will drop, we don't know. It's going to be after the next one, which is going to be next week, so I reckon it's going to be within the next month or so. Talking about patches, they said that they want to move to doing a patch roughly every month, so I think whatever it is that they have ready at a certain point in time during the month will then go into that next patch, which is how quite a lot of games out there do things these days. The smaller patches are a lot easier for them to manage. It means that if something does go wrong, there's not a massive amount of debugging that has to go on for them to find out what is wrong. It's also easier for us players to identify issues, so yeah, they're going to go to smaller monthly patches rather than doing these huge patches every 5 to 6 months. We will still get the big patches, I think, but it'll be more in terms of anticipating certain features that they're going to put in that will make these patches bigger rather than actually being physically, digitally bigger than what they have been. They talked about a new customization system that's going to be coming out. This is something that they're working on. Nikita says it's a tricky system to build and get going, but he says it's going to be a lot more innovative than what we currently have. So of course your loadout, you're going to be able to specify your loadout a lot better. There are going to be new rigs coming into the game. We've seen images of these before anyway. These are rigs where you're going to be able to buy the plating for them. So depending on how much money you've got will depend on what kind of armor plating you can put into the rig. The current rigs that are in the game will stay whilst they transition over to these new ones, but eventually they'll move to the new ones and the old ones will go. That's not to say that the old ones will vanish. It could be that there's just more customization options with them than there currently is. You're going to be able to add extra ammo pouches to them as well, so you're going to get some crazy combinations with the rigs eventually, I reckon. Optics within the game are going to get an overhaul. That's the sights and the red dots. Nikita says he realises that quite a lot of them don't represent real world scaling at the moment, so they're going to look into that and they're going to try and work out a better system to make them look and feel more better than they do and more realistic than they are at the moment. He doesn't believe that the sights and the scopes are very well represented within the game realistically at the moment, and they're going to work on that going forward. With that, this was kind of extra news on top of what was being told about the patches, so this is kind of stuff that they don't know when they'll get that out, but it is in the works to be done. Steam Audio, they've been looking into this. He says it's at the kind of research and development stage at the moment because apparently Steam Audio isn't going to be something that's going to be easy to implement. He says there's going to be a lot of work that has to go into that. So the way he talked about it, I wouldn't expect to see Steam Audio until we have the next wipe. They didn't talk about wipes because the conversation of wipes can just go on and on and on, but the next one is rumoured to be in May, so I would expect that maybe that will be when we get Steam Audio. That is apparently when we will get Streets of Tarkov, the next map as well. The merchandise store is almost up and running. They've been testing it in the background and it will be soon to be released. Again, didn't give any dates on that, but it is almost ready to go by the sounds of it. So you'll be able to purchase things like t-shirts, mugs, caps, various merchandise that you can see in the game you'll be able to buy in real life. I think there's going to be replica killer helmets too, although they won't be actual ballistic helmets because they would struggle to have those shipped out of Russia and shipped into different countries, but you're going to be able to get replica things like that. An open world version of the game. Now this has been spoken about for a long time, I think as long as I've been following this game, which is just over 2 years now. He says that the open world version of the game is more plausible now, especially with the introduction of Unity 2018. It makes it a more viable option, but he says there's no specific timescale given as to when this will be done, and it does sound as though it's going to be something that's going to be well after the main development of the game has been finished, so I wouldn't expect that anytime soon. soon, if at all ever, to be honest. A new skill system is in the works for the game. This is being currently worked on. 2 new skills will be added as well. One is called hideout management and the other one is crafting. Again, no real indication as to when they will come in the game. They will probably be when we get the wipe or later, though, I would expect. Cultists Gaffs, these have been spoken about a few times over the last year or so. They are eventually going to be added to the game. Apparently the character modelling for them is ready and they are almost ready to be implemented in the game. When they will come, again, we don't know, but these will patrol the marked areas of the maps. So every map has a marked room or a marked area, and these guys will patrol those areas. They will only patrol on a night as well. You won't get them on the day maps. VoIP, which has been spoken about a lot in the last few months. Nikita says he's not too keen on adding it into the game in its current guise. Obviously, most VoIP works by proximity chat. He doesn't really like the idea of that. He thinks it might break the immersion of the game. So he's looking into some sort of radio communication system where you will be able to talk to other players via a radio or something of that nature. Other players won't be able to hear you. I don't know where I really stand personally on that. I think proximity chat is probably more better. I mean, it doesn't really take away from the immersion, because if you're stood in one room and somebody's stood in another, you can't talk to them. So proximity chat just works in the same way. But again, it all depends what they want to do with that, but they're not too keen on adding it in the game at the moment, so I wouldn't expect to see it anytime soon. It was something that we was probably looking at being in the next patch, but it doesn't look as though it's going to be in the next patch at the moment. Nikita just doesn't seem keen on it whatsoever. And then we had the images that I've had rolling in the background, which is the concept art for Streets of Tarkov. This map looks absolutely amazing, and it looks huge as well. There is like a grayscale render of the map. I think that's giving us an idea of the actual size of the map, and it just looks huge. I mean, if you're able to go on every floor in every building and able to go in the vast majority of rooms in every one of those buildings, it is going to take a hell of a long time before we manage to deconstruct this map and work out where the best loot areas are and things like that. It looks amazing. They describe it as the signature map for Escape from Tarkov. It is going to be pretty much the pinnacle map at the moment, and it just looks huge. I can't get over the scale of it. It's definitely something bigger than what we've seen before. I think the actual footprint of the map won't be bigger than any of the other maps, but it's the actual amount of discoverable areas and rooms and places that you can actually go into, which is going to make this one hell of a beast of a map. I'm looking forward to it. Urban combat is something that I like. I really enjoy that in the Escape from Tarkov, and this just looks amazing. And that was pretty much it for the podcast breakdown. There was a couple of other things that they went on about, like DLC and things like that, but they're really just things that are so far ahead in the future that they're not really worth talking about right now. The kind of subjects that come up with every podcast, and it's kind of, you know, if it isn't in the works, if it isn't planned for, say, this year, then there's no real point talking about it in my experience. I think you should just leave that and concentrate on what you've actually got in the works and what we will get to see within at least the next 6 months to a year. So there's some good stuff there. Highly looking forward to everything that's happening with the game at the moment. I feel like Escape from Tarkov is in a really good place right now. I like this style of podcast. It was just Nikita, and I think he's one of the guys that works at Battlestate. It was just them two talking to the camera and talking to the chat on Twitch, and I prefer that to the one that has the streamers on. Don't get me wrong, I like the one that's got the streamers on. I think they can be quite funny and you do get some good points of view put across, but for just to have this guy sat there and explaining stuff of his own accord and not being pushed or prompted by anybody was really good, and I think the guy's pretty funny, to be fair. So, and his English is getting a lot better. It's getting a hell of a lot better. But yeah, obviously server issues, they're working on that daily, they're pushing with that. We're going to get an update next week or within the next week or so, I would assume, and then we've got the content update, but we'll follow that, hopefully not too far behind. So the game's doing good, it's moving forward, and yeah, as I say, it's looking in a really good place. I'm enjoying playing it. Even as a casual gamer, I've managed to get to level 41, you know, since the last wipe, which 3 months ago. So yeah, I think the game's doing very well at the moment. Let me know what you think about it in the comment section down below. Are you enjoying the game? Are you looking forward to what's coming? Do you agree or disagree with any of the things that they're doing? Let me know and we'll get a conversation going. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching and listening. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.